Hi everybody, this is the Poinsettia series, and this is going to be part 2, and where I left you off was with this poinsettia unfinished. And I was strictly working with one pigment of red watercolor. And I showed you about how to thin it out and make it paler down here. And there's a reason you want your base to be kind of pale, because you're going to be laying other colors over the top, and if this is a deep red, they're not going to show and you're wasting your time. So that's why I started out kind of pale. Also did some thinking about, before I go into bringing this out and doing the leaves and such, there's something I want to show you before you lay any color over the top, and it's called a test strip. You want to know that you're going to get the results you're looking for. You don't want to start putting something on here and go, oh, that's ugly. So what we're going to do is I'm going to match a test strip to the same value I have here. Now, value is the pale red. That would be a value. The dark red would be another value. So it's how thick the pigment is. Anyway, so I'm going to do a test strip on an independent piece of cardstock. And I'm just kind of going to go this way because I'm going to try several different things. To see what several different things will do. Now I'm going to go, first what I'm going to do is watercolors. And I'm going to come in, and this is, I'm showing you this again, this is a review. So I'm coming in with another layer of pigment. Okay. You can see that it gets darker and darker and darker. Okay. Okay, we're down to almost pure pigment here. Okay. You can see what that's doing. Okay. There you go. Also I'm gonna travel down a little bit for, yeah, no, I'll just leave it there. Okay. Now, I want to talk to you about markers. So I'm going to put here watercolor layers. I'm going to move this down so you can see it. Watercolor layers. Okay. Doo-doo. There we go. I can put it on even thicker than that if I want. Now, one of the things I wanted to do was to put a little yellow watercolors, again the black liquid, and I'm going to put that on my palette. And not very much. And I'm going to clean this brush out in the one tub that is dirty, because that's where you want to leave any residue watercolors. And I'm going to dip it in the clear water. And I'm going to go in here, and just like I thinned out the red, I'm going to thin out the yellow. And how do you make it lighter? You make it lighter by adding more water. Now, if I had red, and I dipped into red water, that would discolor this. So this particular pigment, if you're looking, is brilliant. It's like, ah! So you want to go in and thin it out even more. And I only put a little dab on there. Okay. Add a little bit more yellow, a little more water. You get it to the consistency you want it. That would probably be the consistency you want. Right there. See that? See how sheer that is? Okay, that's just by adding water and getting it to the consistency you want. But you want to make enough here so that you can... All right. So on the test strip, we're going to see if this works. I want to make this a little warmer. You see how sheer that was and how that warmed that up? That's why it had to be sheer. All right, so that works with that. Now a yellow marker, and I want to talk about that too. This is going to be watercolor layer. This is 1, this is 2. I'm going to bring that down so you can see it. Okay, but I'm going to use yellow here. So I used yellow, and you see I got a peachy color. If you want to get a peachy color, now you know how to do that. Then we have points on markers. You got a pen that has a point like this, which is going to give you a line. And then you have one that's called a chisel point, and you're going to get a broad line. Okay, so I'm going to try the broad pen here, right here. And you see how dark that is? Let's see what happens on the pinky. All right. Don't think I want to achieve that. I want to achieve something more like this. But I got one other option I want to try. And that is a yellow watercolor pencil. So I'm going to put that right here, and that's pretty good too, plus I get texture. Are you seeing that? I hope you are. I still like this. Though this does work. And remember, you're going to get, you got a little point like that. So you're just going to get lines. So you have to kind of put them together to get anything. Now these are watercolor pencils. They're not colored pencils. Colored pencils will not dissolve in water. Not very well anyway. So I just wanted to show you that. So I think we're going to stick, now I know when I go to do this flower that I'm going to be using the paler yellow, the watercolor. I prefer that. That's a bit heavy. It's over the top, I think. Anyway, just wanted to show you that. That's called a test strip. And it's always good to do this on a separate piece of paper. See what results you want to get. All right, put that away. Enough of that. Enough of that. Okay. Let's get back to the painting part. Now, I'm going to take some pale yellow. And I'm just going to kind of accent this a little bit. See how that works? It just warms it right up. And I'm kind of targeting the lighter areas. And I'm kind of going with the shape of the leaf. Okay. And that just makes it so warm. There we go. Just blob it on. Don't be very structured with it. We're talking shear, like anybody remembers pantyhose or nylons? We're talking shear. Now, I was asked about how I could get a magenta color. So I'm going to bring the test strip up, and we're going to experiment with a magenta color. Again, I'm going to use a watercolor, liquid Blick watercolor, and I'm going to go to another section of my little plate, clean out my brush. You don't want to contaminate it. And we're going to thin down, just thin down this magenta because it's a screaming color. And I mean thin it down. Like, there's the magenta I put on there, and I'm really thinning it out here. Really thinning it out. Now, she wanted to know, my cousin, how to get that magenta color, so I'm not going to put it on the original painting. I'm going to put it on right here and see if that works. Well, son of a gun, it works very nicely. So that's going to work. And you know when it's going to work is what gives you the confidence to apply it. So I'm going to go in here. It's magenta on red. And I unfortunately didn't make enough here, so I got to make some more. So you can actually see how different that looks from the yellow. You can go in here, and if you put in some stuff in here, you can start getting the shadows in. I do that with the magenta, get the shadows in. Go along the vein. Now I've used yellow here, but let's try using magenta and yellow. Art is experimenting. I'm just working with the magenta. So because it's a darker color, I'm going to use it for the shadows. Why not? There we go. And I have to say something, while your inks are drying or your paints are drying, they tend to fade out a bit. And that's probably due to the paper. So you can go back in and put a little bit in after it's dry. Or while it's still wet, however brave you feel. And you see how that faded out? I'm going back in again. Now you can see the shape of the leaves forming. Yes. So let's see how this does on the just magenta section of the flower. I'm going to take that and just move it along. Now you can do some, you can move it somewhat. Not a lot, but you can move it somewhat. So I'll do one more. Just magenta. And I'm going to lay a lot of magenta in here for the shadow. And then I'm going to bring it out like this. You know, if you want shadow, that kind of pops the leaf on top out. And then I really want to thin this out with some water. You know, because I'm just trying to suggest some color. And by the way, another thing you can do is you can wet that area again, totally, that one petal, and then just drop your magenta on. Alright, so I'm going to try another thing, and that's this pencil. I'm going to check and see if I've got a different yellow. Okay, here's several different yellow colored pencils. I'll start with this one. See, these are several different ones. I'll start with this one. I'll do this one, this one, this one, and we'll see how that helps. Now, this is a watercolor pencil. It's Derwent, and it's ink intense. So it is soluble in water. It shows a little paintbrush there for you. And I'm just going to soak this directly in the pot of water and activate it a little bit. And I'm going to move to this leaf because we're starting a different part and see how this does. And this gives you a whole different feel. Now I'm doing this dry on here, and I'm going to clean my brush and see if I can't move that. It's kind of intense, so I'll see if I can move that a little bit. Ooh, that's shocking. Shocking. Okay, it's another way to do it. Now we're going to move to the next yellow. I'll dip it in the water, just get it activated. And I think I'll try something different this time. I'm going to re-wet this leaf. Re-wet it. See, it doesn't bother it. You can just lay the water on it. And then I'm going to take this pencil over the wet surface, and I'm going to see how, ooh, that's a prettier yellow. So you experiment with different ones. And that goes on entirely differently than this one that I did on a dry surface. So it's all about experimenting. This is more the subtle color I would want if I wanted to bring out the yellow in the petal. And then, I already know how this is going to turn out, but then I could be wrong. This is the alcohol ink marker, and actually I think what I'm going to do is use a smaller point on this, because back here, see how intense that was? I'm wondering if I take and do pencil things like this, if that wouldn't be better. So let's try that out. And I'll do that on this one. And of course with alcohol ink, you do not. That might be okay. It's a whole different feel. But you want to go with the curve of the leaf, see? That's a whole different feel. I hope you can see this. So there you have it, different ways to get different results. This is a lot of fun. Now I want to get into painting the leaves, because I did that experimental part. So it looks like this is going to end up being a two-part series. So I will clean up my palette a bit. And for the sake of time, I'm just going to wipe this all up and clear away for myself. I just use a paper towel. You want to clean that up totally. So I'm going to go into the dirty water at first. Put that on the plate. get that all loose, loosey-loosey. Get a clean paper towel and see if this does the job. Okay. Cap some of these so they don't fall over. I'm going to put a little yellow on my palette again, because in some places I want yellow-green, and in other places I want dark green. So I'll put them across from each other on the palette. See? Right there and right there, they're across from each other. Alright, I'm going to put these pencils away and the markers, because I don't need these right now. Okay. Now we're going to work on the leaves. Clean my brush out. Go to the green and thin it out. Put some more water there. Just pull a little bit. That's a very intense color. See, I'm really pulling that out more. See how I'm doing that? If you want to lighten green, you just add water in watercolors. Okay. So I better bring it back down here. Alright. I think I have enough. Alright, so I'm going to do the same with the leaves that I did with the flower. I'm going to go in like this, very lightly at first, because I want to get that curvature. There, we got that. And I think I will do this. Now this is a different way we can approach this. Down here, it's in the shade, so I just bring it in. That's a little too pale, I think. Okay, so I'm going to bring that in like that. And then I can come in here like this. Leave a little white area, it doesn't hurt. Okay, now we're going to do what we did on the petals. We're going to just wet this up. Boop, boop. Yeah, it's like that. Get that all wet. It's kind of fun. Now I'm going to go in and drop pigment on it. See what happens. Here we go. I'm going to go up in here, get that dark, like that. Oh, you're not seeing that, are you? Sorry. I'll do another leaf and I can show you. Some of these need to be kind of done like that. And I would probably leave this as it is, because I'm going to come in and I'm going to give it some warmth by adding yellow later. So I need some place for the yellow to show up, and that's going to be in those white areas. So let me do this leaf one more time. I didn't mean for that to be off the screen, so let me do this again. I come in with some Can you see that? You can see that. Good. So I'll do the same to the other leaf, kind of letting this set up a bit. All right. And you notice I'm just using one size brush on this. This is an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock. And this is going to work out. Okay. I think now I'm going to go back and put water on this. And what I'm doing right now is called wet on wet. I'm not waiting for it to dry type of thing. Now, I want to put some more green on this. And you can tell the white is still there a little bit. And I'll show you how I'm going to develop this. And I'm not even thinking. I'm just applying the color. Just getting it on. There we go. Okay. Now, the one that makes the leaves pop out, we're going to do next. And that's by adding yellow. But you got to really, really thin it out. It is intense. And you just take your brush and you go swipe. Swipe. This is watercolors. You don't have to get in the lines necessarily. You just want to make impressions. Now let me thin that out a little bit. I can always come in. Okay. So did you see how that actually, and I go swipe. And swipe. That's it. You're only alluding to the fact that it may be yellow-green. Now let's see what it does with this more intense. Oh, that's pretty too. There we go. And that completes the poinsettia. Now, this one I painted, but this one I experimented on, and that's just for you to see all the different options you have available to make your art pop. So I'm going to go in here with some magenta, and I'm going to start shading with color. That is fun too, so let's try that. I'm out of magenta. Wipe that off, that's right. Now I definitely wouldn't use yellow for that, but what I might do is use green. Let me get in here. And these petals are hanging out over the leaf. So in order to make that flower raise up above the leaves, you have to leave a little shade. So you don't want to put it everywhere, but it could be called for here. See? Sort of like that. See how that pulls that flower up? Excuse me. Now, if the sun is coming down from this direction, would there be any shade here? Maybe, but how you apply it would be different. You know that the leaf is curving, so you can make this channel a little darker, and you can put a little more green in here. That would not hurt, just a little bit. Like that. And you might want to put a little darker green here. Am I there? No, I'm not. Okay. A little darker green here. And if you look at this, you can see the leaf is rounding. So you're shading with color. Now we'll do the other leaves. And I already went in here, right? Okay. Now I'm going to come in here because the light's coming from this direction, at least in my painting. And I'm going to give that channel in the shade. And then I think this needs to be in the shade. And that helps give it shape. Now, this one, pretty dark, but I could still use a little shade here. This paper just sucks this up. Whoop! There we go. And there you have it. No, you don't have it. Sorry. I got to do this. I've got to do the magenta on this, because I'm going to use the magenta for shading the flower. Okay, into the clean water. And I'm going to thin this out again. We've already covered how to do that. You know, you always go in light, and you can increase it later. Okay, I'm going to take a stab at this. And I want to put in, because I've established the sun is coming from this direction, so my shadows have to be here. Oops. Didn't look like that's very, and I'll put another one here. Another one here, and you see that yellow come out? Wow. This one is here. And might do this, and then this here. Okay. Just a hair here, not much. Just a little bit. Oh, that's interesting. That was like wet. I didn't know that. Oh well. Okay, and then we go in here. And we go like that. So what did I use? I used yellow, green, red, and magenta. You should never use more than 5 colors if you can help it. Otherwise, you'll confuse yourself. Okay, so let me do this. I'm seeing places I can put shadow. Just slightly. And then down here. Okay. And then maybe some here. Maybe a little in here. You just think where your shadows are. This beading up is another reason you should let your watercolors dry. Do as I say, not as I do. Anyway, let's see here. I could do a little bit around these to make them pop out. That'd be fun. That'd make that yellow stand out more. Just suggest curvature here. These are very little. Just a little bit. Anyway, I think that's pretty good. That sure looks very different from this. And there's one other thing I want to try because I'm an experimenter. You see this intense yellow? I'm going to see if I can tone it down. And how would I do that? Probably with some magenta. So I'm going to take a paintbrush, soak it with some water, lay the water over that colored pencil. That's colored pencil, but oh, that's marker, isn't it? Yeah, that's right. Okay, even I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to tone it down. You see how that did that? Toned it down completely. Didn't make it so screaming. So you can come in with other color and tone other colors down. Now this is fun. This is all experimenting like a scientist. I think I have it. Anyway, thank you very much for coming to my studio and learning from me and with me, actually. And I will talk to you later. And Thanksgiving is in a few days, so happy Thanksgiving.